All right, an easier way to understand the cloud tier kind of comes from what it solves, right? Let's start off with what it solves from our cloud tier perspective, right? So it solves a couple of very key challenges that customers is facing. Firstly, will be offsite copy. Secondly, will be malicious insider. And lastly, ransomware. Right? So cloud tier help to solve all these issues that you are facing. So if there's a need for you to kind of get all these challenges to be solved, Veeam Cloud Tier is there to help you resolve all these challenges. And just a quick kind of description in a simple way of what Cloud Tier does, right? So Veeam has a what we call scale-out backup repository, which is a software-defined backup repository in which we can consolidate all the storage space that you have in your environment and build that as a backup storage. And in this scale-out backup repository, we have two tiers. One is the performance tier and one is the capacity tier. In simple kind of explanation, performance tier is where your data get the most recent restore. You restore it in the shortest possible time, where capacity tier is more for the longer term archiving, which is for the older backup. So with these two tiers, we built a Veeam Cloud Tier that can automatically, based on policy base, move your data accordingly as per needs, as per time, from a performance tier to a capacity tier. And it's transparent to the users because it's all transparent. It's based on the policies that you set, based on the business needs that you have. It's space efficient. You'll be able to move some of the allocation of your space, saving on your performance tier and move it into a more cost-effective capacity tier for the longer term archiving with higher retention. It's self-sufficient on the capacity tier. Things that you offload into the capacity tier can be in the cloud environment. It's self-sufficient in that perspective of if a disaster falls on your production data, your production backup, you can solely base on what you have in the cloud capacity tier to do the restoration. And last but not least, from Veeam perspective, it's always on cost effectiveness. There's no extra cost in using a Veeam Cloud Tier. So let's talk about pre-V10, right? To kind of appreciate how we can make it easier, or how we have made it easier in V10, right? So pre-V10 has a scale-out backup repository, which is generally termed as a software-defined backup repository, whereby you have two tiering, one performance tier and one capacity tier. How does it work, right? Your local backup will usually go to the performance tier for the fastest recovery on-prem local storage, and then you shift accordingly to the capacity tier, based on age, based on time, based on days that you have set. So we call this the move policy. So the move policies will move your data from the performance tier into capacity tier accordingly based on the number of days that you have set. So imagine in a situation whereby I need to have my data redundancy instantly at my capacity tier right after it's been back up into the performance tier. This is the new enhancement that we have in V10, whereby data that's copied into the performance tier, once it's completed, we send it across to the cloud capacity tier if you want to put it in the cloud environment. And that goes into a situation whereby if your data is compromised right after or a few hours after your backup is being done to the performance tier, you're able to recover the data from the cloud tier. So the redundancy is full in the copy policy that we have in V10. V10 cloud tier is promising an instant and independent copy of a data offsite, and it makes it easier for you to achieve the 3-to-1 backup rules from an automation standpoint with 3 copies of backup on 2 different media, and 1 has to be offsite. Should people worry about ransomware, right? They should, they definitely should, because ransomware doesn't just attack your production files, ransomware do attack your backup files. And then your backup files are the last line of defense when anything goes wrong with your production data that you need to do recovery. So you need to take note that ransomware has to be there to be protected from your backup data files. And in V10, how do we do this, and how do we kind of encourage and claim the ransomware-free backup, right? So V10 support a S3 API, which is a common API for S3 protocol for object logs. And this enables your backup to be immutable, And this creates a very natural air gap solution for ransomware, or in actual fact, any malicious attack on your backup files, because it's similar to what we traditionally call a write once and read many kind of format when you're writing data into the S3, which is immutable, which is on an object log basis. And in that note itself, ransomware protection does requires an end-to-end solution, and in Veeam V10, we have our 3-to-1 backup rules, our sure backup, and our cloud tier that enables you to have a proactive way of handling ransomware before the infection. And we have Veeam 1 and data integration API. After it's being infected, how can we react proactively with certain actions from our monitoring and our data integration API? And last but not least, if you're really being compromised by ransomware or any malicious attack, our enhanced NAS recovery, our secure and staged restore, as well as data labs forensic will help you address your ransomware issues. So in V10, we score a perfect 10 out of 10. Better backup, faster, stronger, and smarter.